Wasilla City Council meeting is called to order. The time is 6 p.m. Before we begin, council, please put away cell phones. If you have personal business during the meeting, please move for a recess. If you are participating telephonically, please mute your phone unless speaking. Also, when speaking, please state your name for those streaming the meeting. As a reminder to all attendees, this meeting is being streamed live. The camera is located directly in the back of the council chambers above the clock. Robert's Rules of Order is the parliamentary authority for council meetings under Wasilla Municipal Code 204090. Under this authority, I respectfully request council observe the following. Kindly seek recognition before speaking. That no member speak more than twice on the same motion without an affirmative vote on a motion to suspend the rules. That no member speaks a second time until everyone who wishes to do so has spoken once. The purpose of recognizing these rules is to ensure the right to speak is equally respected and that discussion is not dominated. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Sullivan Leonard.
Here.
Councilmember Graham.
Here.
Councilmember Villock.
Here.
Councilmember Rubeo.
Here.
You do have a quorum, Madam Mayor. Councilmembers Sullivan Leonard, Graham, Villock, and Rubeo are present in council chambers. Council members Johnson and Brown are absent and excused unless there's objection from the body.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Councilperson Rubeo, would you lead us?
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We are now on to approval of the agenda, and tonight we have Wasilla High School representative with us. And also, we are going to pull resolution serial number 23-32 because the state no longer wants the space. So, is there any other changes to the agenda?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Graham?
I'd like to pull 8.3.2, resolution serial 2333, new business.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Councilmember Graham, through the chair to Mr. Graham, would you also like to pull the accompanying AM?
Just the reso.
Just the reso.
Just the reso. Thank you, sir.
Is there any other changes? Hearing none, the agenda will stand as amended. We are now at special orders of the day. There is one proclamation that I will now read. City of Wasilla Proclamation recognizing September 11th as Patriot Day and a National Day of Service and Remembrance. Whereas on September 11th, 2001, over 3,000 people perished in New York City, rural Southwest Pennsylvania, and Washington, D.C. in the worst terrorist attack on America in our nation's history. And whereas innocent people were killed and injured, and our citizenry threatened as a result of these horrific acts. And whereas countless numbers of volunteers from around the United States came together to help in response, mitigation, healing, and rebuilding in the wake of that tragic day. And whereas by a joint resolution approved December 18, 2001, the United States Congress designated September 11th of each year as Patriot Day. And by public law 111-13, approved on April 21st, 2009, designated the observance of September 11th as an annually recognized National Day of Service and Remembrance. And whereas the death and destruction did not weaken the spirit of the American people, but instead it united our citizenry and resulted in public and private expression of heroism, compassion, and patriotism. Whereas the National Day of Service and Remembrance is an opportunity to salute the heroes of 9/11, recapture the spirit of unity and compassion that inspired our nation following the attacks, and rededicate ourselves to sustain service to our communities. And whereas our communities across the nation continue to reflect the values and traditions of a nation built to endure through its vital connections between citizens, government, and our environments. And whereas we salute those who responded to the tragic events with their courage and selfless determination, resources, and skills. And whereas the City of Wasilla honors the memories of those lost and recognize the service of all the men and women whose mission is to protect us. Now, therefore, I, Glenda D. Ledford, Mayor of the City of Wasilla, hereby proclaim September 11th, 2023 as Patriot Day, a National Day of Service and Remembrance in Wasilla, dated this 11th day of September, 2023. Okay, and we are on to Commission and Agencies reports. We'll start with Wasilla High School.
Hi, council members. Hi, Madam Mayor. My name is Glenda D. I'm the student body president at Wasilla High School, and I would like to share some highlights from Warrior Nation. We had 25 AP scholars last year compared to this year compared to the 7 we had last year, so reasonable growth in that department. We were highlighted at the school board meeting in August for our exponential growth in AP classes, with over 300 kids at our school taking AP classes. We have the lowest major discipline infractions for high schools in the district. We are also in our first season of girls flag football combined with Reddington. All of our fall sports are in full swing. Tomorrow is senior night for tennis at Colony. We are hosting the Potato Bowl Friday, September 29th, and this Friday is Veterans Football Night. The Kubota diesel program started at WHS is the first in the state, and we had a ribbon cutting ceremony for that recently. We also have an NC pre-sign day in April, just like our senior signing event for our athletes. And lastly, our school year is off to a great start, and we look forward to sharing with you guys throughout the year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, may I ask Colin a question?
Sure.
Did you go over a Veterans Football Night, what the times are for the games and what exactly that means?
Sorry, it was Saturday night, my bad, at 7:30, I believe, our football games start.
Thank you.
Okay, now we are on to Public Works Director Shaw. Please begin your report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. Eric Shaw, Public Works Director. I wanted to take this time to give you an update on the FEMA process concerning the January 2022 winter storm, where we're at with that, and give you some highlights on some decisions that will be bringing to the council soon. So the agenda is to recap that event, go over the damaged infrastructure, our coordination with FEMA, repairs, some resiliency improvements, and we'll have a summary. As I'm sure you all recall, in the first days of January 2022, Matsu Valley was hit by a sub-zero windstorm. Prolonged winds and power outages caused many facilities in the city and around the borough to be damaged, from water breaks, the high winds blowing materials off the roads and blowing tractor trailers over and affecting all the airports in the valley. And that was a widespread disaster, which brought a disaster declaration by the governor on January 3rd, which opened the assistance of FEMA to come and rebuild and improve the damaged facilities. This is a picture of our Spruce Water Tower, which lost a majority of its metal cladding and insulation, and is probably the most expensive repair to our facilities that we will discuss tonight. So I want to just highlight how the coordination with FEMA works. So we had the natural disaster event, and the community was drastically impacted. The governor declared a disaster, and that allowed FEMA to join us as a partner for restoring services. repairs were immediately begun to get facilities up and running. We had several water systems that lost power, didn't have functioning backup generators, and so parts were frozen, whole rooms were covered in spraying ice, electronics were damaged. So the utility staff, the road staff, and the maintenance staff responded and got those facilities working as quickly as possible. Spruce was drastically impacted because the well was offline for more than a day, which is our main water supply for the city. So to make those repairs, FEMA and our insurance worked together side by side to help us to fund those contracts. So we fund those first, and then we run those through first our insurance and then through FEMA to capture the funding that pays our balance back. One of the mandates within FEMA too is to look for opportunities to make our systems more resilient. So if there's an addition or a strengthening measure that can be added during the reconstruction, FEMA is a partner in that. And so there are a couple areas that we've been able to leverage that to make our facilities more resilient. And then one of the processes too is to provide maintenance improvements. So it's to show that we've enacted new protocols and new measures to maintain those improvements going forward so that we retain that resiliency so we're prepared for future disasters, which we know will be here eventually. This is just a highlight of some of the repairs. The larger water tank that you see is the spruce water tower. After the insulation and the cladding was removed to expose the outside of it, but before the coating was sandblasted off and recoated. The smaller photo is the East Susitna Tower, which was also damaged after it had been recoated. So that's been sandblasted and been repainted by a coating expert. There are also some other minor repairs that were necessary at the airport. A couple gates blew in, or the power controllers were broken. The Menard Sports Complex had some roof damage to it. MACCOM had some lights blown over, had a fence that Parks repaired, and the MACCOM sign was damaged. City Hall had some flooding because of a frozen pipe. Several roadsides blew over across the city. The library roof had a minor incident of damage. There was some roofing damage at the sewer treatment plant. The Richmond Hills booster station had some internal piping freeze and break, so that had to be replaced. But then our Susitna Tower and our Spruce Tower were the most damaged because of the winds and the cold temperatures. So the resiliency improvements are to increase the strength, create backup and redundancy systems, and also improve system controls. Strength increases include a better insulation system. So the roofs and water tower cladding have wind ratings. And so with FEMA support, we have recladded the water towers with a metal coated insulation system that has a higher wind rating. We took the weather data from the last event and added an increased margin of safety to that. And so they have been recoated with a certified cladding that will withstand the new design wind speed, which is around 120 miles an hour, whereas the previous cladding was in the low 90s. We've also added tank mixers inside the tanks, and so what that does is constantly moves the water in a slow vortex. That is to help with icing issues. So groundwater is in the high 30 range when it comes out of the ground, and if you let it sit, it stratifies and you start to get freezing issues. And so to add a small mixer is a low cost but highly effective way to prevent against freeze up issues, even if the well goes offline and the water movement is reduced. And then we were able to repair the coatings on the outside of the tanks, and you could see from those photos that they were they were in need of that long-term repair. As for backup and redundancy, our water system is mostly gravity. We do have a few booster stations, but we do need to power the wells to pull the water out of the ground. And the Spruce Water Tower is our main producer. It has a very good producing well at about 1,000 gallons a minute. And it suffered a catastrophic failure, and they were not able to restore power to it for several days because the generator is an obsolete model. It's very difficult to find repair parts for it. It's one of our earliest systems. It runs off of diesel fuel, and it's just a problematic system. So one of the redundancy options is to to replace the generator. And so then the next question is, what system should we go with? The photo in the center there is a new system of turbine generators, and they're pretty popular in south central Alaska with the natural gas system. These systems, one brand name is the Capstone, can be paired together to provide whole facility power generation, not just backup power, but power the whole facility. And so we've been talking to FEMA about the resilient benefits of a system like this. We've been talking to some suppliers in town, and the proposal is to add 3 of these systems connected together to provide continuous power to the facility. It would actually power itself 100% of the time off of natural gas, but it would retain the connection to MEA's system if we needed it. There's a very interesting payback opportunity because of the amount of power that the well uses brings us into a class of power production where these would actually pay themselves back in about 4 years. They're much too big for a house, but because the well runs constantly and we pay about $330,000 in electrical usage each year, they have a very quick return on investment. Our initial proposal to FEMA was just to buy a large enough diesel generator and replicate the systems that we have at some other facilities. But when we looked at the 99.99% reliability of these systems, FEMA said, let's talk more about this. So we're doing the investigation into the return on investment and pulling all the numbers together, especially with the forecast of upcoming natural gas prices. But this is a system that FEMA has indicated they'd be supportive of. So my plan is to bring you more documentation to show the value of a long-term system like this, both in cost savings over time, but also the extreme level of redundancy and protection against future outages. Just as a side note, this facility was hit with a 7-hour power outage a couple weeks ago when the north side of town was without power. So we are still at risk with the current setup, and this is really lending itself to an option to provide the protection that we're looking for. And the last improvement is system controls, so that we can see remotely how that well house is doing. During the windstorm, we had one of our utility technicians sleep in their vehicle to make sure that the water stayed on as long as possible. So having the ability to know at a moment's notice what state the system is very important. So as a summary, we have been working with FEMA for almost 2 years now, and had about 75 meetings. They were meeting weekly in the beginning to plan out the recovery process and get the contracts out on the street and get these repairs made. We're going into this winter with a much more resilient system. The insulation is almost done. The coatings are complete. The rest of the minor repairs have been done since late fall, early spring this year. And we will now be closing out the books, if you will, and you'll see some more legislation in the coming months to complete those contracts. But the last decision to be made will be what kind of backup system we use at the Spruce Water Tower. In closing, I think the capstone is a very interesting opportunity, and it also brings with it a way to bring in alternative energies. They have a built-in battery pack at the base of them that gives short-term power management, and so they are a unique way to ward off intermittent disruptions to service, but also provide a long-term reliable power generation, as well as reducing operating costs into the future. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Colleen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Eric, for the update here. I actually don't have a copy of your presentation. Is that something you could please provide to council?
Absolutely.
Yeah, just electronic would be great. That way I can go through it. And then, so when you referred to the capstone piece, is that the turbine system that you've referred to then?
Yeah, that's correct. It's that photo right there with the green marks on it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Graham?
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Very informative kind of thing. I like to hear as a council member is what the plan is, as opposed to coming forward and saying, hey, we need money. We need to know tonight. And so this is what I like to hear. So the city has a great number of backup generators for its facilities, and we replaced several of those. I mean, I've been on the council 8 years. We've replaced several of those over 8 years. I'm sure we did more when Councilperson Sullivan Leonard was on the council prior to me. So was this the only generator that had issues, or did other generators have issues? We need to look at those. We need to start thinking about replacing or doing some sort of major servicing on other backup generators.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So I know that at least 3 generators had issues. The Spruce generator is the oldest and the hardest to maintain. But if we think about our backup generator fleet, in the last year we've made great strides in improving systems that have shown unreliability, but also building the framework into ongoing maintenance and servicing. So we have a master service agreement right now with a generator specialty company, and they service all of our generators routinely. And then our staff does internal checks monthly to make sure they're ready to go. Another example of a generator that ran fine but ran into a environmental problem at the library this winter when we had a smaller version of the same wind event. That generator had packed with blowing snow, and when there was a power outage or a scheduled startup, because they'll run themselves once a month as well, it had its air intake packed with snow. It fired itself up and it sheared off all of its fan blades. And our staff found that right away, but there were repairs required for that. So they are important to have, but they are also a maintenance concern. We have to make sure that they're always running. They're not a set and forget system. I'm not saying that diesel generators are not useful. The interesting thing about Spruce is that it falls into a unique case where it uses so much power that there's a sweet spot between the cost of the generators and the power they can produce, that it is worth investigating to have it produce its own power off of the very reliable natural gas system. Anything smaller, and they're just not cost effective to do that. And anything much larger, the capital outlay is too much, but there's kind of a sag point between the cost and the recovery time.
Okay, then kind of follow up on that. When the sewer pumps failed over by the mayor's house, there was a portable unit brought in with the pumps. Is there such a thing available, a portable generator that we could move in the event something like this happens again? And do we own one?
Through the mayor, there are portable generators that we could move in. The pump, well, so at Spruce, the controls and the amount of power that it uses would mean that it is a very large generator. So we have single-phase systems and we have three-phase systems. Spruce is a three-phase system, and so the mobile generator would be
Size of a truck.
size of a truck. It'd be very large. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then you're talking about the new system, essentially self-powered, paying for itself by not paying MEA, which is our local co-op utility. So I am concerned there. I like the idea that there's potential money savings there, but as the city, I mean, we're part of the community, and the co-op is what made this community possible. So I would like to hear from MEA about, when you bring your proposal forward, about what they think of the proposal, and to hear that it's not going to have any sort of negative impact on our ability to generate power in the future or our electrical rates in the future. So just as part of the future there. And then the second question I have
Mr.
is,
Graham, this is your fourth question. So
it's all on the same subject.
I don't care. It's still 4 questions. And according to Robert's rules, then you have to take a break and let somebody else, if they have questions. And if they don't, then you can continue on.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else have questions for Eric? Then you can continue on, Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And the other question I have, and for the record, Madam Mayor, it's the last question. So it didn't sound like we have any backup for this winter for the Spruce water system. Did I hear that correctly?
We do have the old unreliable generator, so it'll be a pain point for us. We'll be monitoring it closely.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, we are now at public participation. There's one ordinance scheduled for a public hearing this evening. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the ordinance.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ordinance serial number 2319, amending the official zoning map of the city of Wasilla to change the zoning from commercial to industrial for Lot 3, Olympic Edition 1 subdivision, and providing for an effective date.
The public hearing on ordinance serial number 2319 is open. Anyone who would like to testify, please come forward and begin by stating your first and last name. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person.
Hi, my name is Diane Keller. If this is a spot zoning question, I would ask you guys to seriously consider this question. Spot zoning is a very, very, very bad thing. That's why we have plan. There should be other places, if they need to do whatever they need to do, that they can do that. But spot zoning, anybody that's been in a planning for any amount of time and has a half a brain in their head will tell you, it's a bad idea. That's all I wish to say. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to testify at this time? Seeing no one, the public hearing is closed. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance serial number 2319?
Madam Mayor, I move ordinance serial number 2319.
Is there a second?
Madam Mayor, I second that.
It's been moved by Councilmember Sullivan Leonard and seconded by Councilmember Velock to adopt ordinance serial number 2319. Is there discussion? Holly, are you online?
Yes, Mayor.
Do you want to weigh in on spot zoning?
Sure. So spot zoning is sort of an interesting legal topic in Alaska and outside. a lot of us feel that spot zoning means any sort of zoning that's done in a spot, right? But in reality, the term is a term of art and it's very specifically defined. So spot zoning occurs when a zoning amendment is, quote, reclassified as a small parcel in a manner inconsistent with existing zoning patterns for the benefit of the owner and to the detriment of the community or without any substantial public purpose. And that is how we define it in Alaska. So what Wasilla has adopted is a pretty comprehensive process to ensure that even rezones for small parcels do not constitute spot zoning. And so that is why we go through the conditional use permit criteria. It's why you have the analysis that you do perform, which is included in your packet. So hopefully that's helpful. Does anybody have any questions?
Seeing no one,
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have the pleasure of attending the majority of the Planning Commission meetings and have heard some discussion on this. And while I agree with the former mayor that spot zoning is a bad thing, I do, looking through the Planning Commission resolution, finding number 5 is, it talks about the need for more industrial land here in the city, and we haven't updated our comprehensive plan going on 12 years now, and the Planning Commission, I think, has been very judicious in sticking to the comprehensive plan as much as possible, but here I think they recognize that the need for additional industrial land, and that this rezoning this particular parcel would not be to the detriment of the city, but actually would be to the benefit of the city. So while I appreciate your comments, Ms. Keller, and I agree with your comments, I think in this situation, I don't think we're looking at spot zoning, and I tend to agree with the Planning Commission that this needs to happen.
Is there further discussion?
Madam Mayor?
Colleen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ms. Nygaard, could you give us just a little summary of Mr. Neeser's application to this and kind of just an overview on why the request was made for industrial and kind of what they're seeking for an outcome for that particular property?
Thank you, Council Member Sullivan Leonard. So yes, Neeser Construction applied for this particular property, which is 8.91 acres from the commercial and industrial. In their testimony, if you go back, they did reference some soil sampling that they did and found this piece of property to be not as viable as commercial as industrial. And so looking at the comp plan and other documents that we have, we did not see it to be inconsistent with what they provided on the application.
And follow up, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, did they give an indication of what they may consider utilizing that particular area for?
Yes, so they have quite a bit of heavy equipment that they are going to relocate from the municipality of Anchorage to support some of their some of the work that they have out here.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Brown. And by the way, Mr. Brown, he came in at 6:14 for the record.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through the Mayor, to the Acting Planning Director, the memo that you put out, did that affect us approving this or not approving this, the memo you put out, of the DOT and the right-of-way issues?
Holly, do you want to weigh in on that? Because I do not see it being, it does not have conflict.
I'm sure. Could you repeat the question after I?
We received the memo reference DOT and right-of-way issues, and I'm just trying to figure out whether there's, if we approve this, does it conflict with DOT concerns?
I don't know the answer to that. I apologize. if there's a factual memo regarding DOT recommending against the rezone, is that?
No, Holly. In this that they put out today, it says the Alaska Department of Transportation and Public Facilities Central Region has reviewed the following rezone and have no comments. And the rezone is R23-01 Gerald Neeser Revocable Trust Parks Highway.
I apologize, Mayor. Okay, so I thought there might be a memo, weighing in against the rezone. I didn't want to be missing that. Based on a no comments memo, I think that any issues regarding a right-of-way or obligations or responsibilities will remain intact, and they'll deal with that as they move forward with development. It wouldn't affect the district, the rezoning of the district.
Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please take a roll call vote on the motion.
Thank you. This is on the adoption of ordinance serial number 2319. Councilmember Sullivan Leonard.
Yes.
Councilmember Graham.
Yes.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Velock.
Yes.
Councilmember Rubio.
Yes.
The motion passes with Councilmember Sullivan Leonard, Graham, Brown, Velock, and Rubio in support. Councilmember Johnson is absent.
Okay, thank you. We are now persons to be heard. This is a time for our members of the public to share their views with the council. This is not a question and answer period or a time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the council or administration. And the first one is Eileen Falkenstein.
Thank you. You did that well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Eileen Falkenstein, representing Wasilla area seniors. What we've done this last month was we celebrated Grandparents' Day on September 8th with a luncheon. We do have some save the dates coming up in October. Through the month of October, we will be accepting items for our online auction, and that will be for our My Oh My It's Pie annual fundraiser, at which time we sell delicious pies, either in slices or as whole pies, and we also make sure that our seniors have a nice Thanksgiving treat. That's our My Oh My It's Pie fundraiser. And then October 14th and October 28th are community health fairs. The one on October 14th is in Wasilla from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Wasilla Area Senior Campus. And the one on October 28th is at the Mid-Valley Senior Center from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. And just a reminder of some of the services that we do offer at Wasilla Seniors. Besides our Meals on Wheels, we do have our grab and go meals Monday through Friday from 11:30 to 12:30. We have our congregate meal at the campus from 11:30 to 12:30. We currently offer adult daycare services at Mid-Valley. We of course have our wonderful Club 50 Fitness Center with various classes and exercise equipment. We offer chore and respite services for seniors that may need help in their home. We offer notary services, senior housing, transportation, and Sunday services and Bible study. So beside Meals on Wheels, we do have a variety of services that we do offer our seniors. And of course, we're always looking for folks that would like to sponsor our meals, and that can either be an individual or a group that would like to sponsor meals for our seniors. And that is my report for today, and thank you again for allowing me to speak and for your support of the Senior Center as always. Thank you.
Mary Randy Robinson.
Good evening, Mayor Ledford, council members, staff. My name is Mary Robinson, aka Randy Robinson. I'm a city resident. In full disclosure, I am also a 20 hours a week employee at the City of Wasilla Public Library. I am representing myself tonight. I am reading my I Read banned books. I am here to speak out against censorship. I want to assure you that when I work at the library, it's complete neutrality because that is the premise of the library, that anyone can come in for any information. I do not discuss my views against censorship with other employees, with any other staff members, with any of the patrons of the library. But I feel very strongly about this. This has been going on for several years at both the Matsu School District and now it's come to the City of Wasilla Library. I firmly believe I could be here all night and tell you all my beliefs, but reading is a right. Access to information is a right. To exercise intellectual freedom is a right. It's comparable, as I've used with several of my friends that are a little bit more different political leaning than I say, just imagine if someone told you, well, you can have your guns, but you can only use this type of gun, and you can only use it on these certain days. To me, that's the same thing as telling someone, well, you can have the access to the library, but you can't read this, and your family can't read this. Bottom line, exercise of intellectual freedom. I really hate to see that a very small minority would be able to tell the rest of the borough what they could read. Any of you are welcome to choose for your family, but you have no right to tell, not that you're thinking of doing that, the other 112,000 residents of the borough what they can read. I have been going to school board meetings. Tomorrow night, for instance, there's a joint school board assembly meeting. I'll be speaking. Again, I represent myself. I am just that I'm a city resident, I'm a borough resident. I maintain complete neutrality. I don't drag the library into it, but I feel that strongly about it. Thursday, the 14th of September, I'll be attending the Library Review Committee that was pulled together by the Matsu Borough School District. And no public participation, but I always send my emails. So I just wanted to speak this evening and tell you that I just want to speak out against censorship, and that yes, I have ordered a little sign from eBay that says, I will not vote for anyone who advocates for censorship. Thank you for speaking with me.
Thank you. Diane Keller.
Hi, my name is Diane Keller. If you drive around the city or talk to your neighbors, you would be alarmed. Recently in our neighborhood, that's yours too, Rubeo, we had a huge homeless camp. While it was in the area, my neighbors experienced the following. Our neighbors experienced the following. A brand new family, 2 days living in their new Wasilla home, was sleeping on the floor with their children, and they were awakened by someone banging on the front door at 3 a.m. screaming, "Let me in." The house is vacant and the door shouldn't be locked. The new homeowner opened the door to find a very high woman on his porch. He told her he was the owner and asked her to leave. She didn't like that and proceeded to vandalize his new home. His wife and young children were scared to death, and he said he was very grateful that the police responded to help out. 2 days later, the neighbor of the prior event was sleeping while her high school age grandson, who lives with her, woke her up at 2 a.m. He had his ground level floor bedroom window open and someone was trying to get in his window. It scared him to death, and the homeowner sent her dog into the bedroom and then turned on the outside lights to look around. She thinks the dog scared off the intruder. Many neighbors have experienced vehicle damage and items stolen. Wasilla is once again becoming the Wild West. Public servants, I'm asking you to drive around and look to see what's going on in our city. And better yet, if you get out and talk to somebody, I'm sure they'll share their story with you if you have a moment to listen to what they have to say. And as the city may also want to consider installing several generators in a daisy chain at their facilities as this kind of setup. This allows every generator to get exercise regularly and eliminates a main and backup generator and all the issues that go with that type of setup. I was a project manager for the replacement of the original 1940 power system for Begich Towers in Whittier, and that is what we did because they could not afford to lose power. Everything in that building in Whittier. And I also ask you to please always remember 9/11. We lost so much that day and all the days that have followed. Thank you.
Jeannie Troe.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Jeannie Trushinsky, President of the Friends of Wasilla Library. Our annual meeting for our membership will be September 18th, this coming Monday at 7 o'clock at the Wasilla Library, and you're all welcome to attend. Summer reading was really successful this year for kids. We had just a great turnout. We had a great turnout at a lot of programs. Really wonderful response to our bikes. We gave 6 bikes in memory of Bert Cottle. I want to tell you 2 stories about that. Try not to cry. 2 families that won, they told the librarians that they had just moved to the area and that they had to leave their bikes behind and that it meant the world to their kids to get the bikes. But the best story is a kid from a family of 6 who really wanted to win the bike. And so when you finish the summer reading program, you've completed your hours, you get a little ticket to put into a jar. And all his siblings put his name in the jar with their coupon, and he won. And I mean, you can't believe how elated that he was. So it was really wonderful. And we had, I think I mentioned before, a patron come in and donate $500 so that every child that got a bike also got a helmet to go with their bike to keep them safe. So it was wonderful. It was so remarkable. We got just received recently a grant from the Noon Rotary, and so we're putting in a new story this week into the Story Walk, and so we appreciate their support for that. I'm going to have Jamie hand out to you these flyers about Heather Lindy. Heather Lindy is the Alaska Writer Laureate. She is the author of If You Lived Here, I'd Know Your Name, of Bears and Ballots, Find the Good, and Take Care of the Garden and the Dogs. Heather is from Haines, Alaska, and about 15 years ago she sat in this room with us for the Friends of the Library and told us what the work they did to get the Haines Library built. The Haines Library was the first library in the state of Alaska to receive a Rasmussen grant, and we subsequently were able to do the same, but her advice really helped us. She is a wonderful, wonderful person, and she's going to be in Wasilla on Tuesday, October 3rd, and she's going to be at Wasilla from 5:30 to 7. She's going to read from some of her books and answer some questions. We're going to have tea with her, and so we really invite everybody to come out. She's also going to be at WASI. One of her specialties is writing obituaries, because that's what she does mostly in the small town of Haines. And so she's going to go to WASI to help people find out if they'd like to write their obituary ahead of time, how to do that. We're working with her. We're trying to get set up for her to do a writing workshop with some students from Wasilla High. So it's going to be really, really neat. And I have some other information hooked on here of our things coming up. We have our book club starting October 2nd. It's the first Monday of the month. And then our next 2 book sales, our bookmarks are on the back. We usually do it the 2nd Saturday of the month, but in November, the 2nd Saturday is Veterans Day. So that messes up our system. So that will be the 3rd Saturday. Anyway, thank you very much, and yeah, great things happen at the library. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to the council at this time? Please begin your testimony by stating your first and last name. Comments are limited to 3 minutes.
My name is Vern Rubright. I live in the city of Wasilla. I'm a resident. Do I have to give my address? Is that what you said? No, okay. Certainly, we've had issues. The library thing's gone back and forth for years, and I agree. It's this way, it's that way, it's this way, it's that way. And I don't think that's a problem that's ever really going to go away. But I received this in the mail. I'm sure you have too, some of you. And that's just a bad optic for the city. So take care is all I can say. I don't know who this group is. I try to look them up, but they do exist. They got a website, but that's all I really know about them. When this came in the mail, I went, what, you know? So, you know, it's a lot to go on with the public is, you know, the optical illusion or the illusion or the optics. So it'd probably be just a good idea to be mindful of this kind of stuff. You really you don't want that kind of woodshedding coming at you. That's just advice from me. It's not easy to deal with, but it certainly is noticeable, especially when they made a mass mailing apparently. So enough said. That's all I got to say about that.
Warren, can I see that?
This? Oh, you didn't?
No.
They didn't mail you one there, Mayor?
I didn't get one today.
I didn't get
I
one
got this a
either.
week ago.
Came a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I never got it.
Look at mine.
Oh, no, I looked at my parents, yes.
Oh, they got one. Okay.
I tried to do the same thing, research.
They're on a website. That's about all I
That's
know.
all you get.
I didn't get one.
Did you not get one either?
I didn't get one, no.
I wonder if they took the
I didn't.
council out of it. They took us off of the mailing list.
Right on there. They might have.
The recycling
That's
center.
where some ordinance.
Yeah.
The one I
Took us off of it.
Yeah. It'd go out. Somebody brought that to my attention before it came in our mailbox, and I said, oh, let me see this, you know?
Thank you.
And then boom, about less than a week later, it was in my mailbox, and it went out. Whoever mails stamps, I don't know who they are. Would you like to see this? I know you came in a little late. It's the flip side too, Mr. Captain of the police department one time. That's it, thank you.
Thank you for letting us see it.
Don't forget your stuff, Vern.
Oh, you're helpful.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the council at this time? Seeing none, we are now at the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the items for approval under the consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have the minutes of the preceding meeting, August 28th, 2023. We have one introduction, recommended public hearing date September 25th, 2023. That's ordinance serial number 2320, amending the fiscal year 2024 budget by accepting and appropriating $3,978,420 for Apron E expansion at the Wasilla Municipal Airport contingent upon execution of a Federal Aviation Administration grant award. We have one resolution, resolution serial number 2333, that was moved to new business. So we have three action memorandums. The first is AM number 2340, contract award to BSI Equipment LLC in the amount of $377,155 for the purchase of a Swartzy M6 SE avalanche sweeper for the roads department. Secondly, AM number 2341, contract award to Northern Gravel and Trucking LLC in the amount of $32,550 for the purchase of 210 tons of salt for road sanding winter 2023-2024. And lastly, AM number 2342, contract award to Swickard Alaska LLC in the amount of $94,642 for the purchase of two 2024 Chevrolet Silverado trucks for the roads and water departments.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
Madam Mayor, I move the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Rubeo seconds.
It's been moved by Councilmember Sullivan Leonard and seconded by Councilmember Rubio to approve the consent agenda as read. Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved. There's no unfinished business, and Madam Clerk, would you read new business, please?
Thank you. That's resolution serial number 2333, authorizing the transfer of funds within an accounting fund in the amount of $27,155 for the purchase of a Swartzy M6 SE avalanche sweeper for the roads department.
Is there a motion to approve the resolution serial number 23-33?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Madam Mayor, I second that.
It's been moved by Councilmember Sullivan Leonard and seconded by Councilmember Velock to approve resolution serial number 2333. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Graham?
I'd like to hear from the Public Works Director. That is, kind of a staff summary of this, but to include, are we replacing a piece of equipment, or are we adding to our fleet of equipment? And if so, what would that addition have to do with the increase or increased use of staff?
Yes, through the mayor. This is an addition to the fleet. It broadens our capabilities for current and future sweeping needs. You asked about increases to staffing. Is that what you're asking about?
Yeah, obviously, if we're increasing our fleet, we're going to need somebody to drive this truck in addition to driving the truck that we already have. So my concern here is, are we growing government when we have private contractors that can do this? I don't remember that discussion during the budgetary session, so I'd just like to flesh that out now.
Yeah, sure. So through the mayor, this machine has broader capability for the initial sweeping in the spring. We have extra gravel on the roads. Right now, we have to use 2 pieces of equipment, which bring 2 operators with it. So our current street sweeper has to make several passes, or we have to run ahead with another piece of equipment to overcome the bulk of the material that's been put down. So while this would be an extra piece of equipment available to our operators, it's far more efficient at that system. This also would make our striping more efficient. We street sweep before we stripe so that the paint adheres. So it isn't a one-to-one increase in the need for labor, but it is an extreme time saver and efficiency upgrade. It also is in preparation for the updated sweeping requirements because of MS4.
And would this acquisition of this piece of equipment allow us to divest ourselves of the other piece of equipment?
No, they would go in tandem together.
Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk. Is there any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Okay. There are no items under communications. We are on audience comments, 3 minutes per person. It's a time for members of the public to share their views with the council. This is not a question and answer period or a time for dialogue. Speakers may be referred to administration, or issues raised may be taken under advisement by the council or administration. Is there anyone present who would like to address the city council? Ms. Eileen.
Eileen Falkenstein, non-resident. I drove by the fire station this morning at 10 minutes of 8, and the display was amazing. What a beautiful memorial. And I think anyone who drove by it, I know I got chills. And I just wanted to recognize the people that put that out there for us to remember. I thank them, I really do.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council at this time? Please state your first and last name, and your comments are limited to 3 minutes.
My name is Fern Ruprecht. I'm a city resident. As I also commented about the pornography or obscenity materials in the library, and I'm sure your city attorney is aware of it, there's a 50-year-old case that I believe is still good law. And I'm familiar with it because I had a case years ago when I was practicing law, and it was called Miller v. California. 413 U.S. 15, 1973. It was the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the prosecution of California publisher for the distribution of obscenity in materials, and also determines what kind of express materials cross the line into unprotected obscenity. So, I think probably a little crash course along the way here in the city might put some of that to bed. What is acceptable, what's not acceptable, especially when you allow minor children into certain areas of the library. If I recall, and I do vividly, the embroilment that happened during the Palin administration about that back in the 90s when she was first mayor, and when the library was up here in the street. And that was a barn burner. That took several meetings. And the librarian at the time, I think, left town when she went to Fairbanks and was a librarian up there the last time I was aware of her. So, be that as it may. I think people should be able to read and peruse what they want, but I think it also has to cover the area of age appropriateness and availability in a public facility. Just another word of advice. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the council at this time? Hearing none? Oh, sorry.
My name is Diane Keller, I'm a city resident. Public servant Glenda. Again, I ask you, how many designated parking spots does one Wasilla mayor need? Apparently, 2 at the same building still, one being stolen from a special needs population. Will you please give their spot back to them because you can't possibly use them at the same time? And again, I ask, does the parking area still comply with our own laws? You are asking for our vote in less than 1 month. I am concerned about the chaotic leadership environment you have created for the citizens and staff and your lack of accountability and answers for very basic questions. From the clerk's office, I have requested the FY22 audit and the answer is the same as it was 6 months ago. Info not available. I've requested the mayor's report to help council and citizens understand the status of city projects and received a response of, no responsive record exists. You have allowed our sewer system to fall into a non-compliant status with no answer for the fix. You can't get along with others. This is demonstrated by the director level staff turnover. 300% in public works and at our police department. 200% in finance, parks and recs. And you couldn't even work with your own deputy administrator. Within 1 year of you taking office, we lost 55 years of institutional knowledge. This screams, you are difficult to work with, and sadly, our loss. You claim the city is open for business and you have a transparent environment. This is not true because the doors are locked and you don't provide basic, usual and customary information to the council or to the public. You have failed to honor our mission statement in all ways. All of your actions say, damn everyone else, I'm the mayor and I can do what I want. You are the mayor, and we elected you to do what we want. I would hope you would evaluate what you have done for yourself and what you have done to us. If you search your heart and reflect honestly, you will see that you are in over your head and that you have not served the citizens or staff well or upheld our mission statement. Special parking at the expense of physically challenged, your road moving up the list to get paved, basic services falling apart are what I have observed in a very short time. I wonder what else I will find if I peek under the covers. You have served yourself very well and been a poor public servant for Wasilla. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the council at this time? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We'll see you all here next regular meeting, September 25th.
Madam Attorney.
No comment, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Sullivan Leonard.
Oh, you caught me unaware. Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, council. Thank you for folks that are here today. I just want to make a quick comment. There are people in this room that are unfortunately leaving, but they have served the city of Wasilla for many, many years. And I know during their time when they served, they too did not appreciate people coming to the mic and really hitting below the belt and criticizing their work as a public servant at times that were unfactual and really just poor form on the face of someone coming forward to do that. I just want to say, I believe our mayor has done a good job. I think she works hard. In fact, I know she works hard. Anytime I've needed to contact her, morning, noon, or night, she's there. Anytime I need something, our administration has been very forthcoming. They don't hide things from me. They don't hide things from the public. And for a former mayor of Wasilla to come forward and show such contempt, well, disrespect and contempt for our city, our elected officials, is really just, again, poor form. I'm sorry to see that happen. It's not something that we normally see, but again, when they were on the receiving end, I know they didn't like it much either. So it's unfortunate that they feel that they must hit below the belt to our mayor, who is doing a very, very good job. That's all I have to say tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Rubeo.
Thank you, Mayor. Back to kill 'em with kindness, guys. You gotta speak to others how you want to be spoken to. Other than that, I do look forward to getting Eric's packet. I did come up with a question. Just wanted to know what the maintenance on those capstones are. And so I'll look forward to that and more information coming through. But that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Vlock.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do want to thank Eric for your presentation, very informative. And also with people who did come tonight, I just want to know that they just seem to come right before election. We didn't hear from them. They came right before the election last year. And as soon as it was over, we never saw them again, and now they're back. So I just think maybe that has something to do with it. But I do want to thank the mayor and the council for all their hard work, and just keep it up. Thank you.
Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I apologize for my tardiness. Thank you very much for coming. This is what's great about Alaska and what's great about America. Everyone can express their opinions. I just hope the voters who are watching this and listen to this later will evaluate what they heard and will go and look for themselves as to what's true and what's false and what's good and what's bad. And I ask voters to be involved. And you come out to the city council meetings also and express your opinions if you support or don't support. Come out and express your opinion. That's an obligation you have as a citizen to be involved in your government. You shouldn't sit back and let somebody else decide what your government's going to be. You ought to be involved. You ought to get up and talk, and you ought to express your opinions. And if something is good, you ought to express that. And if something is going against your will and what you don't believe in, you ought to express that. When you sit back and don't get involved, when you sit back and don't vote, then you have just voted to agree to accept whatever come your way. So be involved. Don't let one or two people or a small minority decide on what kind of city government you have, borough government, state government, or federal government. Be involved. And I believe all the city council and the mayor up here, we vote our conscience, we vote what we believe to be ethical and morally and what's best for the city of Wasilla. And for myself, I vote what is best for 10,400 people, not for a small minority. And I hope everyone do the same. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Graham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the same subject, I welcome anybody's comments, whether they're in favor or not. Obviously, civil discourse is the best way to get things done. But you know, sitting up here doesn't mean that everybody agrees with me or agrees with everybody else. If they have a point to make, they're certainly welcome to make that. That's why we have public participation. That's why we have it twice during each meeting, is so that we can hear that. I mean, I think all of us have tough enough skin up here that, that it's okay. But it's always better to converse with somebody than to argue with somebody. So, but, any comments are always welcome. But on a different subject, today is Patriot Day. 9/11, the Remembrance Day for the start of what has really been a new generation in America. What happened on 9/11 shaped our nation, for the next 30 years, and will continue to be part of our national fabric for the next, 200 years. But what many people forget about Patriot Day is a day of service. So that's a chance for us to look back and remember how we came together as a nation to overcome the scourge of terrorism, not just here, but this global terrorist cloud covering the world. But we came together to do that. And as a day of service, it doesn't necessarily talk about a day of national service. It just talks about a day of service. It talks about going to Wazi and pulling weeds. It means going, picking up the rocks out of your street and getting them out of the way so that the pavement's a little bit better. It doesn't mean any great heroic act. It just means going out and doing something that's not necessarily to your benefit, but benefits your community. So obviously our day of service, Patriot Day, is coming to an end here. That doesn't mean, that there's not things we can do on the way home. But maybe next year we can plan on actually doing something where we spend a couple hours in service. Maybe we can talk to our employers to dedicate a couple hours of their employees' time towards some sort of service project to make the community better, which in turn strengthens our state, strengthens our nation, and strengthens our world. So for those who observed Patriot Day and the moment of silence that is asked for, and went out and did some service, thank you very much. For those who didn't, it's never too late, and please think about it, because it's things like Patriot Day that make our country a truly great nation. Last thing for tonight is, one of the concerns I have, and I think Eric saw this, and others saw this too, is growth of government. There are things that the government can do, but when there are things that can be done efficiently by the private sector, we should certainly lean in their direction whenever possible. That's why I ask questions about MEA. That's why I ask questions about, are we going to have to hire additional government employees to do sweeping when we have people who do pavement maintenance, here in the city and here in the state. So don't get me wrong, I'm not an anti-government guy. Government does a lot of things that nobody else can do or nobody else should do, but there are a lot of things that government does that government doesn't need to do because the private sector can do better. So that's just one of the concerns I have whenever we're looking at new equipment, for instance, particularly if we're looking at adding some sort of service, theoretically, for the public. So, and I hope you all ask yourselves that question as well. Is this something that government needs to do, or is this just something that government needs to fund and the private sector can do so that you and your neighbors can have the jobs needed to keep our community going? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Eileen, this morning, Jamie and I went by the fire station on Lucille, and they had the lights on the trucks and whatever. And before I came to work, of course, I was looking at Facebook, and they had a picture of, what was his name? The Beamer, the guy that said, "Let's roll."
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And that, when you think about that, can you imagine getting that phone call? And then what pursued after that? So I am very thankful that in this community that we do share the patriotism with all of us. I don't care what side of the fence you're on. You know, this is our home, this is our hometown, and we're all in this together, believe it or not, no matter what. So, with all the flags and everything today, it was a very solemn minute, you know, when we came by. So, but I appreciate all you guys. And to my directors, I appreciate the job that you do. We keep moving Wasilla forward. And by the way, at 11:30 Friday, we are having a groundbreaking at Wasilla Airport. Yes, we are expanding. So, not in the next 30 days, but down the road, that is going to bring new businesses and good paying jobs to this city. So we are on our way as far as keeping the city open for business. We try to do that every day. Are we gonna please everybody? No. You know, that'll never happen. So, if you've got more than one child in your family, you know you can't please everybody. So,
Does that mean you're buying lunch from Friday?
no.
It's the difficult child.
Whew, this peanut gallery gets worse every 2 weeks. But anyway, oh, thank you all for coming. Appreciate everybody that's in attendance, and don't hesitate to come and voice your opinion. You know, and if I'm doing something you don't like, tell me, and we'll talk about it. So with that, we are adjourned at 7:16.